So with that, we'll try and answer questions.
We know what Russ Vought had said about a less bipartisan appropriations process. Will you ultimately be looking to the president himself about what he wants in government funding, and do you think he would be willing to, give the Democrats some breaks, to give them some opportunity to get on to whatever form of a spending bill takes shape in September?
I think it's in everybody's interest to avoid a government shutdown at the end of September, which, as you all know, is when our fiscal year ends. And obviously, in order for that to happen, it's going to take some cooperation from Democrats. So I think the president is prepared to deal, to negotiate. He's proven that in the past. And obviously, we have bills on the floor right now, or a bill on the floor, which we're trying to convert into bills, to make it a package of bills to consider to keep the appropriations process moving forward. And obviously, we are all very concerned on our side of the aisle in finding ways to make our country more fiscally sustainable and to find savings within the appropriations process and the other areas of government funding that fall under the mandatory side of the budget. But we very much want to see restraint in spending so that we can start dealing with the debt and the deficits. And I think the best way, at least right now, to do that is to have a normal appropriations process. And a number of my colleagues are on that committee and have been working aggressively to try and get bills ready for consideration on the floor. And I just hope now that we can get a path forward to do that. If at the end of the fiscal year the Democrats use any other suggestion made by anybody in the administration as a cover for not doing appropriations bills, or worse yet, as a cover for trying to shut the government down, that is an argument that's not going to be sustainable. And so if we end up with a Schumer shutdown at the end of the year, the Democrats are going to own that. In the meantime, we're going to do everything we can to try and move the appropriations process forward, which is why we called up and put on the floor the Milcon VA appropriations bill last week.
How are you going to handle a CR at the end of September? Will you do what you did in March, basically take a House-passed package, bring it to the floor, or would you enter a four corners negotiation ahead of time?
Well, to be determined. I think a lot of that depends on how cooperative the Democrats are in trying to get the appropriations process moving forward. Obviously, I would say all options are on the table when it comes to funding the government. But what I can tell you is we are going to look for ways to keep the government funded and open and operating. And what we hear, at least rhetorically, coming out of the Democrats right now is they have a very different view of the world. And they're already talking openly about a shutdown. And I think the politics on their side of the aisle right now is such that, as I said, the far left, the wing of their party in the Senate, is calling the shots. And I don't think that's in anybody's best interest. So I'm not taking any options off the table. But what I will tell you today is that as we look at this week and then the subsequent weeks coming in September, I intend to use those weeks to try and get appropriation bills done so that when we get to that year-end conversation, we're prepared to have hopefully a substantive conversation about what the best way is to fund the government.